former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He's chairman of the Alpha Institute. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So there's a big piece in the Washington Post this morning, I don't know if you saw, about tariffs and not just tariffs, but really actually the bill. I mean, I should really go maybe to the piece that was in Axios. I'm sort of mixing pieces in my head now about sort of the idea that there's going to be sort of one massive bill that's going to come due, if you will, with everything in it: immigration, potentially taxes, all sorts of component parts. Will the Freedom Caucus go along with sort of a massive MAGA bill?
They're going to have to. I mean, this is what's so critical. And for your viewers to understand, this is because of reconciliation. Yeah. You can only have it if you have the Senate and the House. It's how the Democrats did Obamacare. It's how we did tax reform. But the critical part here is this is in modern history, it's the first time that the majority in the Senate is bigger than the majority in the House. They actually lost seats in the House. And another thing they're not talking about, the Speaker talks about getting this done by April 1st. He won't even have the 2 seats in Florida that are open. The election is on April 1st. So the election for Speaker, he had a bigger majority than wants to do this. Now, this is a big win for the chairman of Ways and Means, Jason Smith, because earlier they were talking about doing 2 reconciliations, which I thought was wrong. Because what happens, it gets more difficult to pass a bill later, exactly to your question.
Reconciliation just means you don't have to have any Democrats.
I don't need 60 votes in the Senate,
you can get it done.
And you can do cuts. But you can't write any bill you want because you got the Byrd rule in the Senate. The parliamentarian has a lot of power. Thune already said he's not going to go against the parliamentarian. So Trump is right by moving to just 1. Because I think getting that bite of that apple is going to be a difficult job.
What would you put in that?
Well, you got to do tax, okay? But think about this. You couldn't pass the same tax bill that you had now because the New Yorkers and the Californians
want the higher
for state, for the SALT. The president now said that he doesn't want no tax on tips. So this all costs more money. So how do you offset this, right? Then if you need money for the border. And think about this. If this is all supposed to be done by April 1st, they never got the funding done from last year. That's due in March. So what are they going to focus on? They should have got all that done ahead of time.
You're saying you would do this, but it also sounds like there's no way, there's not a chance that this is getting done by August.
Oh, no, it's getting done. Okay. The way we got tax reform done, because we did the same way, because we failed on health care, people leaned into tax, even though some didn't want to vote for it, because they felt if we failed here, we'd lose everything.
So basically, this is like take it all, or you have nothing.
Yes, they know the American public is watching this. Now, President Trump is doing a very good job for this reason. He's got the Freedom Caucus coming down. The Freedom Caucus letter there, the people who are anti-Trump are more in the Freedom Caucus than any other place. So for them to play this card, they're wrong. They're trying to leverage for their own personal positions. They're really not leveraging for the Trump stuff. Right. I know what the private meetings are about. I know what they tried to do to me.
Where are you going to put me in charge? Which
I want the Rules Committee. I want Chip Roy in charge of the rules. That's what they asked.
And by the way, the rest of the Republicans say, no way, we're not going to take that again.
They couldn't win the vote by their own conference, so they try to leverage this point.
So this makes sense from the House perspective. Does it make sense from the Senate perspective? Because Thune has not sounded as
well. It's easier it's easier for Thune because remember, for the first time in modern history, he's got a bigger majority. And they go along more than here. But what Trump is doing, next week he's bringing a number of members down. So Trump is not only president, he's pretty much the speaker now, too, because he's turning these votes.
It's like an LBJ sort of situation where he's going to go around and kick people in the shins and say, you're going to do this.
He has to do this. And he realizes the importance. The uniqueness, too, I was just with the president Friday. He is better prepared.
The incoming president.
Better prepared.
Yeah, President Trump. That's easy to
figure.
President Trump is better prepared to go into the job this time than he was 8 years ago. Yeah. He knows the job. He knows what has to get done. He knows he's got 1 term. He doesn't want to waste 1 day. The people that he's brought in, he is much better prepared and the knowledge of what has to happen. So he also knows how to work. President Trump knows these districts better than these members do. I spent a lot of time with him. When we would go and endorse, he knows the outcome. He knows the strength in them.
I've been talking to a number of people who've been down in Mar-a-Lago, and they say they think that there's more access to him, and it's better that it's going to be easier for him, or this last month, easier for him to see people and to get to people than it is once he actually gets to the White House. Do you think that's true?
No, President Trump is more accessible than anybody on his staff. And this is the difficult part for someone who works for him. Because members will talk to him.
You don't get to be the gatekeeper.
He will talk to everybody. I don't understand how good he is at a work ethic. He doesn't need much sleep. He never has in his life. I usually would talk to him early in the morning, late at night, every single day, still talk to him. And the number of people he talks to in a day is amazing, is more than any that his staff talks to.
What do you think we should all make of the number of CEOs who are going down to Mar-a-Lago and or now contributing to the inauguration? I ask because there's some people who look at this and say, these companies never did this before. These tech companies weren't doing this in 2016. And by the way, they weren't doing it for Democrats either, interestingly. Is this transactional? Is this cozying up? Is this practical? Are these the new defense companies, if you will? Meaning, I would say defense companies and some banks and others were doing this years ago.
I look at people who give to the inaugural different than someone gives to the campaign, because it really is a celebration of there. Now, are they doing it just for celebrating?
Who the winner is
no.
At that point.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people. Tech companies are different today, though. They never played in politics,
right. They need to.
But now they do.
Yeah.
Government can affect them, and what have they done? So they now begin to realize, a lot of them are just now putting government affairs together. They're realizing they better start building a relationship.
Oh, but companies like Meta and Google have been spending enormous amounts of money in Washington for the last decade and a half.
Yeah, but they're further along than others. But they also spent a lot. Look, you say they're spending money, it's now getting reported. A lot of these people spent money in campaigns that didn't get reported.
Right.
So, people know who they play with and what side. But the difference here is, I take it as a positive that they've accepted this election. They don't want to fight this president. He never got a honeymoon, President Trump did, and normal presidents get 9 months. So I think this is better for the whole country, and it's better because he won the popular vote. And you got to give him credit.
Right.
He's the first non-incumbent Republican president to win the popular vote in 38 years. So this is making the country stronger for that.
So you just were with the incoming President Trump.
Yeah.
How does he feel about the, because we're paying a lot more attention to who's visiting Mar-a-Lago than to who's visiting the White House these days. How does he feel about that?
More is happening in Mar-a-Lago than happening at the White House.
Right.
And that's been happening for a long time. But look at it, the world leaders are coming. Look, I spent a lot of time with this president. He's meeting so many people, and all the world leaders are coming. I think it's stabilizing the world, too, because if you look around the world after COVID, most leaders of democracy have lost.
Okay, so go around the world with us. Yeah. Justin Trudeau may be out.
I think he's out.
Okay. UK, I don't know what's going on over there.
He has not gone off to the good start, and he's in real trouble.
So what?
Macron,
right.
How many times he changes?
So how does this all, so if we're sitting here together a year from now, what do you think this whole world looks like? And what is the impact of either Trumpism, MAGA, or maybe Elon Musk ultimately?
Well, I would say with Trump, I think the world becomes more stable. I think the Middle East calms down. I think if you look to Europe, I'd look to the Prime Minister of Italy. Now, normally the Prime Minister of Italy only lasts a year and a half. She is a unique leader, and I think she's becoming the leader of Europe. And you just watch, she was at Mar-a-Lago Saturday. But she is a unique leader, and she's genuine. And I think Macron's gone, I think Europe and the others. Germany, what have they done, right? Ever since Merkel. Trump does something different in stabilizing the world. Like you talked about that conversation on tariffs.
Right.
Prior to the election, most of the questions you would have, you were worried about, is Trump going to put in across the board? Well, now you're seeing he's being more selective.
Well, that's in the Washington Post today, that it's going to be select industries, and I guess that gives you more room for negotiation.
Trump uses it for two different ways, right? And when leaders of other countries call me to ask about what's going to happen, I tell them this. Well, how do you treat America? Mm-hmm. If you want to know what Trump thinks, he's going to look at your country and say, how do you treat us? And don't say, well, this is what we've always done. That's not the correct answer.
Right.
Treat America with respect that you want to be treated by us. That's the way Trump's going to look at it. You could be his friend, but you can't treat America poorly and think we're going to take it anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's all part of a negotiation, but I think the world's going to be in a stronger place economically for this.
What happens with Ukraine?
Well, Ukraine has fought for quite some time. Now, I have a belief what Putin has done is similar to Hitler. And he cannot invade another country. He's lost how many men, and now North Korea? It creates a great deal of fear to me, looking a little more like 1938 when you have this axis of evil. I think Ukraine will come to a solution, but my biggest concern is you have to break that axis of evil from China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. That is a scary part for the rest of the world. That's what keeps me up at night.
Finally, Elon Musk.
Yes.
co-president? What's going on here?
No,
but tell us.
That's a talking point.
I know, as somebody who's inside the room, what's his role really going to be? And what do you see going forward? And I ask because he's spending an enormous amount of time, obviously, in Mar-a-Lago with the president now.
Yeah.
He's spending an enormous amount of time on Twitter, or X, you know, and now he's working on what's going on in the UK, it sounds like. But he also has these other businesses, and I just wonder, at some point, is there enough time in the day? I mean, the accordion of his life to actually be able to do all of this.
You know, as you know, I've known Elon for a long time. And people have bet against him for a long time. And I tell people, don't ever bet against him. And he's always had a lot of businesses, and he focuses on a few at one time while he gets the others running, and he's hands-on. The thing I've always known about Elon, and we have dealt in politics for a long time, he doesn't really drive on, am I Republican or Democrat? He's an independent, but he's really a constitutionalist. And the thing that drives him the most is the First Amendment. It is what drives him. And what he has found since he bought Twitter, he watched what government had done to people. It was a fundamental change in who he was. I was to the right of him. And then after he bought Twitter, he came to see me, showing me things that I didn't even know government had done. And what he truly believes in this election, he would say to me, if we lose this election, there's no other place to move. He moved out of California. I'm still there. He goes, I can't move to another state. So he really believes that he's working for the goodness of this country and for the Constitution. And he's a driven person. And when you push back against him, he will stand up for what he believes in. I think it's going to be very positive. Now, Doge, to me, is great because our greatest threat to this nation is our debt. And no one really is paying attention to it.
Are they going to have more teeth than, you know, the Simpson-Bowles Commission had? Will Congress listen?
They need to. Okay, what I propose, we need to deal with this the way we dealt with BRAC, the base realignment and closure. Yeah. What has to happen is Congress and the Senate need to put teeth in this, where if whatever Doge comes up, they're guaranteed a vote on the House and the Senate, guaranteed a vote, and no amendments. Let it vote up or vote it down. That's the only way you'll get beyond the partisanship. If this goes to committee, it will die. Yeah. If this gets members to, if they get to make amendments to it, everybody's got some. He's an outsider, and what I would do, he's embracing anybody that wants to come into it. I mean, you talk about getting rid of the swamp. Any American can give an idea, and the power of the idea can win.
We're going to have you back. We're out of time. Yeah. We should actually talk about the HB1 visa issue, because that's actually a fascinating thing that we've seen this sort of blowback on that. But we've got some breaking news to bring everybody. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.